Module 3, Emotional Intelligence Education, Communication Toolbox for the Difficult Caller, Module 3. Our objectives for this module will be to explain what is emotional intelligence, using emotional intelligence as a tool, total emotional intelligence, and then applying emotional intelligence to nursing, emotional intelligence telephonic toolbox, and emotional intelligence CEU offer. Now, emotional intelligence was a hot topic about 8 years ago. Google uses emotional intelligence as part of their hiring process. Isn't that interesting? If you go to the DMV, they do not. And you can feel this in the way that the work community relates to each other and how they relate to the customer or the patient, in our case, because we're talking about patients, nursing, that sort of thing. Now, the official definition of emotional intelligence is the ability of an individual to deal successfully with other people, to manage oneself, and to motivate other people, to understand one's own feelings and appropriately respond to the everyday environment. So how we respond to things around us. Job satisfaction is tremendously increased for people who have emotional intelligence. They have a self-awareness, they have empathy. Usually they are so self-motivated, so they want to improve, they want to do better at the job. They're emotionally stable. They manage relationships, integrity. Emotional intelligent people work towards self-development. They tend to be value-oriented. They have commitment to their job and to the conversation, and they have altruistic behavior. Okay, so how does this relate to nursing emotional intelligence, especially over the phone? Emotional intelligence, you can't see the person. You don't know if they're making a face at you. You don't know if they're bleeding, right, if you don't ask them. But the nurse can upgrade their emotional intelligence skills at any stage of your life. Isn't that interesting? You can learn to be more emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence is the distinguishing factor that helps us to maintain a warm relationship with close or distant contacts. Nurses with higher emotional intelligence report better job satisfaction statistically. Age, nursing experience, and maturity are positively correlated with higher emotional intelligence. So the longer somebody's been a nurse, you might think, oh, she's set in her ways. That's not true. She is just naturally been around more, had more experiences. Now, that's not to say age is a factor. Of course, you could have a brand new nurse, or you could have a young nurse, and you can teach at any age emotional intelligence. Now, I love this outline here. So EI is the buzzword for emotional intelligence. You've got self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal, which is really what we do over the phone, decision-making, and of course stress management, because a lot of the calls we're talking about difficult callers, we're talking about how can higher emotional intelligence make us better able to manage our stress and have a better feeling towards our job, towards how we handle the call. So self-perception is how you regard yourself. Self-actualization is how you actually see yourself, how you feel you actually perform. Emotional self-awareness is, are you aware how you're coming across, right? Are we aware? Emotional expression, so this is under self-expression, so how you express yourself, and this is something younger people do very well, emotionally express themselves for good or bad. Assertiveness can come with what we think of as confidence, but being assertive doesn't necessarily mean you're the most knowledgeable, confident nurse in the room, but if you assert yourself to help someone, that's what we're talking about. And independence, if you're working from home remotely, you are independent. You are very independent with what you're doing in your job. Interpersonal. Again, interpersonal relationships, how we relate to each other, because a lot of time over the phone, you're simply chatting in a box, you're typing. How is this coming across? Are you using emojis? Are you, this sort of thing. Empathy. Do you actually care if somebody's upset? Does that bother you? Would you like them to? Do you feel for them? Can you put yourself in their shoes? Social responsibility. So again, being socially responsible for how we care for this patient. Where's this patient going to go? The emergency room? Are we giving them home care? Are we thinking about what the cost would be go to the ER? I mean, although we can't cloud our judgment, if they say, I'm not going to the emergency room, being socially responsible for saying, okay, you're not going to go to the emergency room because of cost. I cannot agree with that as a nurse, but these are things you can do. Please call 911 in these, if anything worsens at all. Decision making. So this is something that nurses are taught in nursing school. So we have that therapeutic communication, critical thinking skills just pounded into you when you're in nursing school. What do you do then? Oh, the nurse walks into a room. This is happening. What does she do? Right? That's all the NCLEX. So problem solving. So this is why nurses naturally have a higher emotional intelligence than other people. Reality testing. So are you testing your reality? What's really going on? Are you in a bad mood? Did you come to the call maybe perhaps with something going on personally? Really, what's the reality of the situation? Impulse control. It's it can be very, very hard when someone is being cruel, especially those demanding, erratic callers, to control yourself and not cut off before you've tried everything, right? And stress management. This is very important for loving your job, for liking your job. Telephone triage nursing is extremely stressful because of that, that higher ability of people over the phone or through virtual communication to be meaner, I believe was the clinical word used in the paper. So being flexible, stress tolerance, how much stress can you handle? How do you handle that? And being optimistic. So being optimistic with and without the difficult caller, how it went. The next one will be better. I'm going to improve myself. I'm optimistic. I like my job. I love being home in my pajamas as I'm talking to people, right? What's the takeaway? What's your gratitude? That's the big buzzword now, gratitude. Optimism equals gratitude for whatever's happening. Maybe that caller was mad in the end, but I know I gave them good advice, and I know I didn't lose my cool and I kept it under the gun. Okay, so in the next section, we're looking at using emotional intelligence as a tool to increase telephone triage nursing competency and job satisfaction. Because if you don't like your job, if you don't want to come, if you're in a bad mood because if you have to sit there, obviously you're not going to be as competent, you're not going to be as open-minded, you're not going to be able to really handle open-mindedly and emotionally intelligently the calls. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. So we have what they call an emotional intelligence training, an upstairs brain and a downstairs brain. What is your upstairs brain? Your upstairs brain allows us to think before we act, decision-making control over emotions and body, focus, concentration, empathy, and self-awareness. That's your upstairs brain. That's what we learn. So you have knowledge, and then the more knowledge you have, if you have these experiences, it can turn into wisdom. So the upstairs brain is your wise self, right? The downstairs brain allows us to act before we think, fight or flight response, emotional reactions, bodily functions. Somebody yells at you, you're going to yell back. Oh, that hurt my feelings. Oh, I feel that in my stomach. Automatically, you start sweating, you're irritated, you get tense. You might not even know you're doing it, but that is your downstairs brain. Emotional intelligence allows us to step beyond our downstairs brain and be the nurse we want to be. So applying emotional intelligence to telephone triage nursing. Now there are 5 parts of emotional intelligence. Knowing what you're feeling. How is the caller making you feel? It's not just pushing your feelings under the carpet. It's knowing how is this making me feel. And then the second thing is managing your feelings, especially distressing, bad feelings. How can you manage negative feelings brought on by difficult callers and telephonic situations? Self-motivation. EI is very keen on self-motivating. Inspire to increase your job satisfaction. Now this alone has been shown to give people a better job satisfaction, and that's part of the EI. Empathy. Now before the whole EI buzz came about, empathy, we thought you're just born with it, right? People are just born nice. But that's not exactly true. As a nurse, you've been trained to don't take things personally. If you're in the emergency room, somebody's yelling at you, you know they're tired, the patient is stressed, they're going to take it out on you. So we offer empathy, but we maintain our upstairs brain, right? Don't take it personally, put it on the back porch, maintain your upstairs brain. And then managing relationships. So managing your callers, your coworkers with self-awareness and emotional control. Don't put that angry emoji or, oh, this caller was so this right away. You're going to take a breath when you have a bad emotion, and you're going to know how to be self-aware and to manage that. The benefits of emotional intelligence is increased team performance, improved decision making, increased personal well-being, feeling better every day at work and after work, reduced staff turnover, less nurses are going to come and go, decreased occupational stress, and increased leadership ability. High EI is directly correlated to increased ability to lead and to be a good leader that people respond to. Okay, so what's in the module toolbox? What's in our EI telephonic toolbox? Demonstrate empathy. Be understanding without necessarily agreeing. Use words that show you care, and don't judge. Connecting and communicating. Meet the caller's tone where they are. Listen for voice tone clues. Prepare the caller for negative information. I know you're not going to want to hear this, but unfortunately, there is no doctor on call, and we cannot refill your Percocet over the weekend. You're going to have to either go to the emergency room or call on Monday. Assertive communication. Be assertive. Use assertive communication. Well, I have to tell you that based on what you've told me, I would advise you go to the emergency room. A lot of people don't want to hear that, or you're going to give them home care and they want to go to the emergency room. So be assertive with your nursing knowledge and what you're coming across. Employ that assertive tone. Take charge and lead of the call from the beginning to the end. Right from the get-go, take control of the call. Conflict resolution. Be aware of your emotions while remaining composed. You can feel them coming in your stomach, and you can say, oh, okay, I got to take a breath. This person's upsetting me. Be aware of the caller's emotion. Are they angry? Are they crying? Are they tearful? Communicate clearly and respectfully. Mrs. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Prioritize getting your needs and the caller's needs met. Your needs are to complete that call efficiently and legally, right? We must get all our demos done, all our boxes checked. We have to tell them to call back if anything happens. You have to try to get all of those things in, legal things that you have to say, but also making sure you get across to them and you're able to finish your chart doing what you know was the right thing to do, although it's not always what they want to hear. Emotionally intelligent fighting. This sounds like a contraindication, but emotionally intelligent fighting. Leave unrelated issues out. Oh, I see you've called 8 times already today, and we already told you no. Of course you're not going to say that. Bring the call back to the reality and the topic. A lot of times they'll go on a tangent. Well, when I went in the other day, the secretary there was very rude to me, and she said this and she said that, and she... How can I help you today? What is your pain level right now? I understand you were sick a year ago with the same thing. How do you feel today? 1 out of 10. Listen without getting defensive. And do not take any verbal shots at the caller. This when you're being attacked verbally, this is very hard to do, right? Because you feel like you're being stripped of your power. All the calls are recorded. You know you can't say, you know you can't verbally fight or take a shot at the caller, even though they're shooting at you. They're bullying you. But you are in control. You are the caretaker. They are the one who's having a problem, right? Flexibility. Allow yourself to adjust your thoughts, feelings, and behavior to unfamiliar, unpredictable, or changing conditions. Am I willing to put aside the need to be right? Am I unwilling to compromise principles or values? So how are we supposed to regulate our emotions? Higher emotional intelligence. How do we manage our own emotions? How do we interact with other? Self-awareness. Be able to recognize your own emotions, strengths, and weaknesses. Self-regulation. Think before you act by controlling your emotions and impulses. Motivation. Have a drive for achievement with an optimistic outlook. Social skills. Interacting with others in a confident and charismatic manner. Empathy. Understanding the needs and feelings of others. So again, we're kind of going back to the 5 keys of EI: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, social skills, and empathy. So when we look at emotional intelligence, we look at our own needs, right? I mean, yes, you're the nurse, yes, you're caring for the patient, but in order to be a better nurse, a better telephone triage nurse, you have to understand your being's needs. Self-actualization is at the tippity top. So those with understanding their own self-actualization have higher EI and are happier. If you look at the bottom, deficient needs, physiological needs, safety needs, belonging needs, esteem needs, and then the tippity top, self-actualization. So ironically, physiological needs, like I really got to go to the bathroom, are at the bottom of EI. Having that higher emotional intelligence, understanding how you're feeling. Okay, so this is Nurse Builders. I don't know if, I mean, we all as nurses have to do a lot of CEIs, CEUs. This is some statistics, emotional intelligence statistics. So 90% of top persons have 90% of those at the top of their business field have a 90% higher emotional intelligence than everybody else. People with higher EIs make $29,000 more a year. I thought that was interesting. You just make more money if you're emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence, so this is something I would like to offer. If you want to take this course, just jet me an email. I will pay for it. It's only $10, but that's okay. I'm going to handle it. But I just thought it was a really great and you can get a seat, you get credit for it, which will apply to your license. And Nurse Building is a nursing education company that supports clinical practice excellence through certification and review, continuing education, and mentoring. So this certification offers included a live course. So the e-courses and the study aid, and it's if you want to take it, if you are really interested in EI, please let me know. I would love to do that for you. And these are just, you know, the certification and the memberships that Nurse Builders is a part of. So in review, we can increase our emotional intelligence. Nurses with higher emotional intelligence have increased critical thinking skills. Nurses with higher emotional intellect have increased job satisfaction.